glaze.
Yeah, it's not a real body.
Try the Coke, Albert. It's a delicacy. I can't do that accent from Helen Mirren.
I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, we'll
Helen
see.
Mirren.
Hi, I'm Helen Mirren. Try that cock, Albert. It's a
Oh,
delicacy.
dear. Awful.
Well, hello there. Welcome to On the BiTTE, the podcast that uncovers full frontal male nudity in cinema. My name is Laura, and I am joined by my co-host Ryan.
Hello.
And we are joined by our special guest, Kat of Uncomfortable Brunch.
Hello.
We have you here because this is an Uncomfortable Brunch movie.
Yes.
I talked to you guys when you were figuring out the schedule, so every film that you have a penis in it, we needed to get involved with.
Well, we tried to make them align to some level of degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, this will be one of two that we have coming up, so stay tuned for that, because you're also going to be covering Doom Generation with Josh pretty soon.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
at least one more.
Yeah, the excitement is palpable.
I am excited about this one because Ryan has a thing about our director today, but maybe we're changing his mind.
I think I came into the work of Peter Greenaway with like a level of bias when I was younger, which is kind of weird because usually when you're younger and you're studying film, you tend to be like pretentious and you like pretentious things.
But
then
you grew into your pretentiousness?
Well, I always felt that Peter Greenaway was maybe too pretentious. But I don't know. I think you kind of have to. There has to be some level of respect and admiration for some of the things that he does. But I don't know if it's 100% my cup of tea.
I love that. Well, that's good because we all gathered together today to talk about probably his, I don't know, maybe undoubtedly his most popular film.
This is his seminal piece, I would say.
His most narrative.
Yes. This is the most accessible of his films, probably.
That you really can't find anywhere.
That you can't find anywhere, yeah. It's not immediately available, or at least the version that we're certainly covering today.
Yeah, and I was just reading a little bit about, because I don't have any history with any of his other films, but what is being said about it online is just that this film is a lot less cerebral than his other ones.
Yeah.
I was hoping maybe, Ryan, you could speak on his past films a little bit, because I don't have knowledge there.
He definitely will. I'm just going to interrupt him because I haven't even said the movie we're talking about today.
Yeah, we should probably do that.
Which is the 1989 dark comedy crime drama art film, ? Well, not really ?
I would say it's incredibly an art film, yeah.
The cook, the thief, his wife, and her lover.
And I'm also kind of like, is there any way that we can abbreviate that so we don't have to say it every time?
I say the cook, the thief.
Cool. The cook thief.
Usually when I've thought about it in my head.
Cool.
I call it Cook Thief.
Yeah, because I did do an abbreviation of it, and it's TCTTHWHL, and I am not saying that every time.
No,
that's true. It's on the calendar.
That is a mouthful.
I was wondering what, titty hall.
Titty hall.
Well, certainly we have. We do have a calendar, and we have like a whiteboard calendar that we put things on. And I'm like, I'm not fucking writing the whole title down. That's not going to happen in a million years. Oh,
The dog has escaped.
Ugh.
This film has really quite an amazing ensemble cast that they've put together. Richard Boehringer, Michael Gambon, Helen Mirren, Alan Howard, Tim Roth, Kieran Hines, and I put Paul Russell. He plays Pup, the boy soprano.
Oh.
Oh wow. Okay.
You have more people that you put on your list, Ryan, I know.
Yeah, well, I recognized a whole bunch of the folk in this movie who have obviously been staples of British TV and cinema for, I don't know how many years now, like 30 years odd. And I don't know if I want to name all of them, but you've already kind of mentioned like Kieran Hines, obviously Liz Smith, who's of the royal family fame, Gary Olson, Ewan Stewart, Roger Ashton Grift, Ian Dury, Diane Langton, Prudence Oliver, Ron Cook, Emer Gillespie, Janet Heffrey, Willie Ross, Roger Loudpack, who's obviously of Only Fools and Horses fame.
Totally.
like a whole bunch of folk in there, and obviously I'm not expecting you Americans to understand exactly who I'm referring to there when I refer to the shows that they were also in, but
Well, you got to give us a reference. Only Fools and Horses, totally fine.
yes.
One of the guys that I kept looking up was the first officer in Titanic, so that was important.
Yes.
And he's of your heritage. He's a
So he's
Scotsman.
also a Scotsman. Yeah, I mean
Indeed.
that's fine. I mean I didn't get to finish the list, but I'm not going to. But let's just put it this way: it's a great cast of British film and TV staples.
So while we were watching the movie and I was doing a little bit of research, I found something out about the lover, played by Alan Howard, his name's Michael in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that he was the voice of Sauron in The Lord of the Rings?
No.
What, the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Oh, okay. No, I did not know
Okay,
that.
that was really cool. It was really cool to me, guys, because we always bring up things like Seinfeld and Harry Potter, and of course Harry Potter will probably come up at some point because
So he was
at least two people. From
he was
Harry
the
Potter in
voice
this
of
film.
Sauron, but was he the mouth of Sauron?
No.
Like that character from the Return of the King movie?
No.
So he's the indistinguishable voice
Of the
that's
Ring.
Of the Ring, right.
Kind of.
So that literally could have been anybody. Yeah, that
But it wasn't,
yeah.
baby. It was the lover. The lover was the voice of the ring and the
God.
voice of Sauron.
I mean, that's how you get those gigs. You know what I mean?
He's a prolific stage actor. When I looked him up, I go, "What's he from?"
Of course he is. Yeah, of course he is.
Yeah,
he is.
stage.
We've seen Sauron's penis
So many times.
a lot of times.
Yeah, a lot of times. Yeah, this is primarily going to be incredibly dick thick. Let's put it that way.
Dick
this
thick.
episode, yeah.
I
dick
like that,
thick.
dick thick.
Well, no, I lost my train of thought.
I do want to point out. That's what you're.
We can just move on to something, and I'll come up with it later.
I
yeah.
think we can.
Out of
Yeah, I
nowhere.
think that's okay. Yeah, that's all right. As long as you're not too like crestfallen about that particular thought that you were going to put out there. Was it another Lord of the Rings like centric
I have no idea.
like geek shit
Oh,
thing
it's
that you
complete
always kind of
gone.
pull out?
It's so
it's
gone.
It's into the ether.
Yeah.
we gotta move on.
Cool.
Everything I want to say is
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's like Sauron's fart,
Out
non-existent.
the window.
Yeah. Okay. Let's carry on.
So we've mentioned before that this is a Peter Greenaway film. I'm going to throw the synopsis out there before we get Ryan to dig into Greenaway, because this, I
Yeah.
mean, to be honest, is one of very, 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 very many Peter Greenaway films that we will eventually do. Because that boy
This is
knows
the
what he is doing.
Yeah, I guess we've held off on doing Peter Greenaway due to my unfounded bias against his work.
I like that you could be honest about it.
I suppose so. I guess like we'll get more into that maybe as I talk about Peter Greenaway, and like this film was spoiled for me when I was 8 years old.
What, 8? Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about your father's
My
girlfriend.
father's current wife, which if anyone doesn't realize, that means he's married more than once, at least. And certainly, yes, I remember seeing the back cover of this film on VHS, and the ending of the film is one of the images on the back of the VHS tape.
Whoa.
Really?
Yes. 100%. Now, whether or not this is the version that we watch, which is effectively the uncut, unrated version, which is the version that you should watch, even though it's not actually actively available,
You know where to get it.
you know where to get it.
You
There's
just go
that-
on the web.
There's that place.
On the web.
There's that dark web place.
It's
not
really
even
the
the dark
dark
web.
web.
Oh, is it not the dark web?
www.
It's right
be a
next to
pirate.
that. Yeah, it's right next to where you can
It's,
get your
On the web.
you can get perfectly legal pharmaceuticals online without a doctor.
You wouldn't steal a car.
Yeah.
I want to buy it.
You're
Give
prob-
it to me to buy. I'm waiting for Criterion to put this out, for crying out loud.
He wouldn't download a house.
But by golly, if I could.
If I could, I fucking would download,
I would download
a
the
house.
house.
3D
Yeah.
print that shit. What
mean-
are
Hell
we talking
yeah.
about?
Yeah.
It will
It's like-
take 45 years, but that's about how long it's going to take for
What's
us
that?
to be
It's
able to afford a house
It's like
anyway.
peer
There you
share.
go.
Yeah, it's like peer sharing real estate. Is that how that kind of works now? It's
Like
like,
a
the lime.
timeshare.
It's like the LimeWire for for like council housing.
We all get a piece.
Yes, I mean we would love that. But the thing is, though, we're millennials. It's our fault. That's why we can't progress in life like our forefathers did. Anyway,
So the synopsis of this film is a beautiful one line that I pulled from Letterboxd. One beautiful sentence that goes, "The wife of an abusive criminal finds solace in the arms of a kind, regular guest in her husband's restaurant."
perfect. Yeah, perfect.
The tagline is great. It is lust, murder, dessert, bon appetit. Which, guys, this is going to go into spoilers. I mean, you know what you're getting into, but this movie's got
Yeah.
some... I thought it was going to be... Like, halfway through the film, I thought this was going to be more disgusting and more fucked up.
Yeah.
And then it got to the end, and I was like, fair play.
Yes.
You lived
Yes.
up to it, and I appreciated it a lot.
Well, it's got it
Yeah.
sectioned off so that like you've got the introduction to the characters and you learn what they're about, and then like the middle part of the movie is just like clandestine sex.
Yeah.
And then the end of it is just like everything coming crashing down. And so it's just like it progresses in a way that you would expect
Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess.
it behaves
until it doesn't.
the film behaves like a 3-act stage play for the most part. Like I'm going to be making quite a lot of references to Shakespeare and all that sort of stuff over the course of this unraveling of the Peter Greenaway classic. But do you
can't
want me to get into Peter Greenaway?
Please do.
Yes.
So Peter Greenaway, he is, as far as we're concerned, he's a British film director, screenwriter, and artist, and he's obviously still active now, and he's still a man in his 80s, still making films to this day.
Still a man.
He is still a man in his 80s. So he started as an artist, so very much kind of, I would say, in the vein of a handful of other British filmmakers, namely like Ridley Scott and stuff, is they did start out in art school and they did start out as artists and then kind of transitioned into filmmaking. I guess from the behind the scenes stuff that we watched and from a handful of the things that we've read about Peter Greenaway was that he just wanted more out of the art form other than it being what he felt like was, you know, he was creating frames, but he wanted to create multiple frames with soundtracks and this idea of like blending all these other art forms with like sound and things to basically kind of be a little bit more distinct in terms of his like artistic direction and stuff, which is kind of, I would liken how I kind of started off in art and doing illustration and painting and sculpture, and then filmmaking kind of ticked all of the rest of the boxes, and I kind of moved more into that from doing art and things.
When you talk about him being an artist, what specifically do you mean?
Painter.
Okay.
He was a painter.
So he went to school for paint.
Yes,
To be
yes.
a painter.
To be an artist, he went to art school to do art, and he came out of it, and he did painting.
Okay.
So, well, he's
That's
following.
that's helpful to know, like the medium.
Yes.
I just want to make sure because he's an artist. I'm like, anyone could be an artist.
Yeah. Do we
Okay.
mean auteur?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Isn't that a phrase that many have akin to like this current Gen AI generation that we're now fucking dealing with as artists, where everyone can be an artist? Fucking knobheads.
Go on, keep going.
Yep.
He joins a really long line of filmmakers who obviously incorporate, like I would liken him to say like an Akira Kurosawa, who to slightly more kind of extreme He did storyboards that were primarily all just like single paintings, and he just wanted to recreate those paintings on celluloid. He did all. I mean, Kira Kurosawa. He did all of his paintings and the storyboards for Ran and these giant canvases that he did like on set and on location. He would just like paint them all really fast, and he'd be like, "We're gonna make it look like this."
That's cool.
I think that's very cool. But notably, like what you see with Peter Greenaway stuff is that his influence is very much stage within art, and that's very much a very kind of similar thing to many great directors out there who have taken literal pieces of art and transposed those frames into the moving image. So he's very much influenced by the Renaissance paintings, Baroque paintings, and obviously Flemish paintings. And to anyone aware of that, it's like the Dutch artists. So we see like Caravaggio, Rembrandt, where there are strong depictions of light and dark. And I would pull out an artistic term called chiaroscuro, which is basically the difference between the use of light and dark and how it's kind of less like, say, like an impressionist painting, which works primarily with, you have a white canvas and you're adding light and color to that canvas. You're effectively in chiaroscuro dealing with something that is effectively quite dark, and you're adding the light to that image in order to then create the forms and the images and all that sort of thing. And obviously with Caravaggio, who obviously has he has a colourful history as being, he was a criminal.
What did he do?
He was wanted for murder. He was running around Europe while painting pictures, and he was wanted for murder.
Did he actually murder somebody?
He did, yes. And there are very strong and vivid depictions of violence and things within his pictures, and I would honestly, one of a few of my favorite paintings of all time come from Caravaggio, and obviously from Rembrandt as well.
Wait, before we move on, like, do you describe the murder? How did it happen?
Who did he murder?
Yeah, who did he murder?
How did he do
I feel
it?
like you should know these things if you're just gonna throw out murder like that.
I want to know more about the murder. Tell me about
Then
the murder.
well, I've not told this story in such a long time, but hold on.
But just do it off the top of your head.
Well, I can't do it
Yeah.
off the top of my head because I can't. I only know that is the case. So I would have to go back into the notes. I would have to then look for the note and then do it that way. But then
Always
let me
tell us details of murder. That is
So, like, you want to know about the murders.
Tell us about the murder.
and
Murder.
His criminal history.
Yay!
So, so I've got this article here. It's from biography.com, which notes that Caravaggio went to trial at least 11 times. So he went to trial for at least kind of writing like libelous poems, throwing like a plate of artichokes at a waiter, and assaulting people with swords.
Jesus.
this sounds like Ezra Miller.
Yeah. And this is, yeah, well, I mean,
Tell
I
me
guess,
about all the people he groomed.
yeah. Well, at least, I mean, luckily there wasn't any microwaves back then, otherwise he probably would have put a baby in a microwave. But here's the thing, and this will kind of like seal this up, because otherwise I'd be expecting you guys to then look it up yourselves and have a little bit more of the detail. But he did eventually fled Rome to escape punishment for killing a man and died in exile under mysterious circumstances. So my whole understanding of Caravaggio is that he did a bunch of paintings, and then he also did a bunch of crimes.
I'm not done. I need to know more about this murder. That's all it says about the murder?
Like, how did he murder
How
the
did he
man?
kill him? Who was they? Was it like a bar fight, or
Did he just like stab
Did
him
he-
in the neck with his artichoke? That was
did
really
he choke
sharp.
him with the artichoke down his
Wait,
throat?
Artichokes are not sharp.
Yeah, but you could choke him out with a bunch of a plate of
There's-
You
artichokes
could shove
and then
it in down his throat like book
like
pieces.
a bunch, like your favorite book on the French Revolution, right down your gullet.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like this thing goes incredibly in depth about all of the fucked up things this man has done over the course of his life, and I am quickly reading it because the last time I read any of this stuff, I was maybe 16. I'm fucking 30. I'm 38 this year.
Caravaggio killed Ranuccio Tomasoni in Rome. The artist and Tomasoni began to brawl over a bet on a tennis game. The event was the last in a series of troubles that Caravaggio brought upon himself through his volatile temperament.
Bet
I mean, there's
on a
even-
tennis game.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
even like explanations about his death, and that he got syphilis, and then there was an infected sword wound, And then he also got like lead poisoning from the paint he was using. And that's how he died.
A report written by the barber surgeon who examined Tomasoni's dead body indicates that Tomasoni bled to death through the femoral artery in his groin, suggesting that Caravaggio tried to castrate him.
He is a fucking dude. Like, he is like...
Boom! Whoa!
He's like the...
What a story.
He is the baddest of bad.
Wait, and what year did he die?
It was
He's like
in
the
17th
Sam.
century.
He's like the Sam Peckinpah of the
16
17th century.
So
16th century.
Was it the 16th? Right, sorry.
1500s?
Yeah, so 1592 he fled, and...
Yeah, they definitely didn't have a cure for syphilis at that time.
No, 1606
No.
is where
It was
he killed the guy.
It was probably tertiary at that point that he had the syphilis is going straight to his brain.
He is, yeah. He was, yeah. He sounds a little bit mad, but he's also. I mean, I honestly say, like, I mean, if you have any sort of interest in art whatsoever, I'd say, yeah, look at his paintings and look at the work of Rembrandt and stuff like that, and I think you'll find that. There's transposition from modern cinema from that sort of stuff there. So going back to Peter Greenaway, let's just say, there's a really strong sense of, watch Peter Greenaway's movies. There's a really strong sense of like scene composition, like staging, which I think is an incredibly strong trait for a filmmaker to have, because it's it feels like a lost art, like the good old sense of staging a scene and like, developing shots and stuff like that. I feel like it's a lot more about editing and stuff now. But then also there's a sense of like illumination and like where lights are placed and how that kind of all works in the favor of like how these scenes are put together. And obviously, there's a really strong sense of, costume and like contrast in that nature, and obviously like nudity and how humans interact and stuff within his films, and just again, it's a good sense of design in his films. And certainly I think with The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, we're going to see a lot of that stuff in terms of how each film, I think each frame in this movie can be analysed and extrapolated quite a lot more, and that the amount of information that it's giving us and like how certain things are kind of put together in this film as well. So I think this is a good way to start with, I guess, our Greenaway Odyssey, I suppose. But he's a prolific filmmaker. I would also say that his films, there's a long catalogue of like shorts and docs, and he also made like a bunch of mockumentaries as well. That is, I don't know, like maybe 100 films deep.
Boy.
And I would say to you to have a little look at that. But I do have his full feature filmography here. So
how many is that?
Let's get started. Maybe 20? It's only like 20 films or something like that. It's only 20. He's only made 20 films. Yes. So it starts off in 1980 with The Falls, which is followed up by The Draughtsman's Contract in 1982. And then after that, it's A Z and Two Knots in 1985, The Belly of an Architect in 1987, Drowning by Numbers in 88, and then we're following that up with The Cook, the Thief in 1989, followed by Prospero's Books in 91, 8.5 Women in 99, the Tulsi Looper trilogy, which is effectively like a TV series, which was between 2003 to 2004. But what they did do is very similar to those Rob Brydon those shows, those Trip 2 films. They did a truncated, edited version of the Tulsa Looper series, and they called it A Life in Suitcases, and that came out in 2005.
Like the trip and the trip to Italy. And
yeah.
With Steve Coogan and Rob
they're
Brydon.
always poorer versions.
Yeah, it's
of
exactly
the actual.
like that.
Yeah, they're poor man's versions of the actual full TV shows. But that followed up with Night Watching in 2007, a movie called Goltzius and the Pelican Company in 2012, Einstein in Guanajuato, I think that is, Guanajuato in 2015, and then in 2022 he made a film called Walking to Paris, and that's his last film at the moment.
He had a lot of those have penises in them.
Yes, we're going to be covering quite a few of them. I don't know how better those films are in
Didn't he do The Pillow Book?
He might have done, but it might not be on the list that I've got here.
Okay.
So it might not have been referred to as a feature film, if that's the case.
Well, it definitely is.
Either
But
way...
I thought it was because I looked up his filmography on Letterboxd earlier.
Yeah.
And it said I had seen 1% of his films. And one of them was...
The Pillow Book.
Pillow Book, yeah.
Yeah, like I say, I took the full list, unless I'm wrong, but when did The Pillow Book come out?
Well, it might also be that he was, like, maybe a producer or something on it.
Or it could have been any of the multitude of things, because he's also worked in TV.
It came out in 96. But he did direct it.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But that was the first one that I'd seen of his, because Ewan McGregor's in it, and he's naked the entire film.
Yeah.
Not the first time, not the last.
There's a big comparison I make to Greenaway in terms of like, I'd say if you like Ken Russell, you'll probably like Peter Greenaway.
I
for
love
better or for worse.
Ken Russell.
Yes, I know you do. I know you do.
So much.
But
I have yet to dive into Ken Russell, but it is an odyssey that I will take soon.
You're gonna love it.
It's an interesting dive of film.
He's one of those
the
where
Ken
you
Russell stuff. It's very love or hate it. Like, that's kind of what I feel about Ken Russell. You're either really into it or you're not.
A lot of his really weird stuff is on Tubi.
Yeah.
Tubi is what Josh calls the Wild West of streaming services.
Of course, yeah. He showed us that Chinese produced as in, like, Trump versus the fucking, like, aliens or
the
something.
Illuminati.
Yeah. And it's like Trump comes back as, like, a Chinese clone. He fights the aliens and the fucking Illuminati and shit.
Oh dear.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of trash on there, but also, funnily enough, even to, like, my kind of feelings on the whole thing is, like, if you want to watch, like, TV show animes from, like, the late 80s to the 90s, Tubi is the place to go.
Tubi's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, I'll deal with that's a service I would pay for if I didn't have to watch ads.
Yeah, this podcast is not sponsored by Tubi.
It should be.
It should be.
I will reach out to the people at
We
Tubi
fucking
and
ring
I
its
will.
praises every week. And
I
it's
love
like,
Tubi.
Yeah, we ring its fucking praises. We should be getting money from Tubi. They're just like, fuck
I'll reach
you.
out. I'll reach out. Don't worry.
They're like, fuck you. We don't fucking do shit.
All right, do we have any additional insight on Greenaway before we like dive into this?
I have so much stuff to talk about even before I have stuff about the film.
Oh my god.
My only kind of
About the story of the
I feel
film.
like you guys are edging me.
I'm just gonna wait until we get you all glazed up.
yeah, one of us isn't going home tonight.
Oh no.
I'm starving. So, I have a couple of things I just wanted to bring up that I just thought were interesting about the film. So this was Greenaway's first film to be released in the United States since the Droutman's contract in 1982.
Oh god.
And he kind of used this Jacobean play, 'Tis Pity She's a Whore,
Yeah.
as the template for the film.
That's the name of it.
'Tis Pity She's a Whore. It's a
Yeah.
tragedy that was written by Tom Ford, first performed in 1626.
Yeah.
And it's an incestuous love story between Giovanni and his sister Annabella that ends in disaster and death.
Which is weird because I'd read that and I was like, yeah, no, I've read that play before, and it's
really familiar to me as well.
yeah, it's super familiar, and it makes sense for how structurally this film is put together.
Yeah.
Wow.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's definitely has notes of stage theater, and the way that it's shot, it feels like the camera moves around versus having quick cuts.
There's a weird thing that I felt about, and I don't want to like pander to, let's say our in inverted commas modern audience, but when I was watching this, I was like, this is like a no holds barred, like harder to stomach, like stylized Wes Anderson sort of stylistic kind of idea here. Like the way that the camera moves, the way the lenses are. Like I feel like a lot of his stylistic traits, love him or hate him as it were, come from the kind of the Greenaway Greenaway aesthetic, I would say. Or at least that's kind of how I felt. And I'm not someone who really likes Wes Anderson that much, but you can tell from the fisheye lenses and stuff that he was using that yeah, he obviously kind of takes a little bit more from Greenaway than I think he would ever hope to admit. But yeah.
Thoughts? Kat?
I find it interesting you're noting this. Because like one of the noted influences on Wes Anderson, he always goes back to Hal Ashby with like Harold and Maude and those quick like zoom shots and
Right.
Those types of things, like the reactions. So I would say maybe like in the color palette, I could see that because there's a deliberate colorization, especially with use of like gels and things of that sort.
Yeah.
But I don't know how far the influence would go there.
I would say I think it's a little bit more kind of surface level stuff. I don't think in terms of the level of depth that he employs into his filmmaking. I would say like side tracking shots is a big thing, and I think the staging is a big thing.
I could see the tracking shots a lot.
Oh my gosh,
Big
so
time.
much tracking shots, especially like
Yes.
I just watched Life Aquatic again at like the Enzion last week, and like it's just the camera moving around, taking you through the ship because they had that massive set.
Yeah.
And like it's the same thing with this, is just like you go from like outside to inside through the kitchen into the restaurant, and then around, not so much into the bathrooms. Like there's not really tracking shots into there. It cuts away.
I mean, I would also kind of point out that in the Life Aquatic, that set I don't think is used as that much in that movie at all. It's literally for that one scene or two scenes or something.
It's actually used more
Is
than I realized, like,
Okay.
watching it before. Like, if you go back, like, whenever they're just going through the ship, like, they'll use that set to just show the progression of them, like, moving through it.
I guess so. I mean, I would have to literally force myself to watch Life Aquatic again, even though we own it in the house. But
Force? I don't know. I like that one.
it's when
Yeah, it's good.
It starts to taper off a bit after
not-
that for me.
Yeah, I'm
but
not
then
his fan. I know Asteroid City and stuff's coming out, but really, he would have to do something. I know Katie likes him, and that's why I kind of brought it up, because I was like, I feel like there's some kind of level of influence here. But yeah, no, I'm not his biggest fan. He made The Royal Tenenbaums, and I think that's a fantastic film.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that film's excellent. But yeah, let's move on.
Well, we were talking about style, and I had some notes, which I'm sure we all knew and could very easily see just from watching the film, is the color and the color palette and the different sets that require different colors. And Greenaway said this movie is about color.
Yeah, there's a real distinct attention to detail in terms of, I guess, like the gamut of cinema discipline being kind of involved here, where it's not just a concentration on like what you're seeing from the camera perspective. It's like from costume to set design to obviously the way that things are lit and the way things are put together, and like the transition between certain scenes and locations that I think is incredibly clever.
It is really clever, and I was reading about it before we actually watched the movie, and I didn't realize how specific and detailed that it was, because you have the different sets that have their different colors. So like the exterior of the restaurant is blue, and then the kitchen of the restaurant is green, because it all is within the restaurant.
Well,
For the most part. Also,
the underbelly of the restaurant as well is depicted as red when we first, because it's like I don't think there's no what was I going to say? There's no hiding the fact what this film is definitely influenced by, in the way that the images are obviously put forth. And certainly I think that's something we'll obviously talk about, because one of the main kind of thematic concerns is, like, certainly it comes from critics as well, is obviously from the time this film was made. You know, it's made during the height of Margaret Thatcher's rule, her reign in the UK at the time, and greed was seen as a good thing. I mean, certainly as the the fucking basis of any Tory government that goes into power in the UK. But certainly, there's no hiding the fact that, like, this is a film that's about greed. It's about excess. It's about stomping on the lower classes. It's about how the proletariat is fucking nothing but a piece of shit, eating scraps from the table of the bourgeoisie, up to the point where the proletariat just decides that they're so hungry they'll just eat the bourgeoisie instead. So this is very much like what he's putting out there. But then, you know, I mean, I also kind of put down in my notes, like, I mean, we're talking about this now, like, they compare it to, like, Thatcherism, and I feel like a lot of it really kind of comes down to, like, we live in a capitalist society, certainly in the West. It feels very tired at this point, obviously back then, and certain ways, you know, it's a little bit fresher, a little bit more kind of socially relatable, I suppose, when the time it comes out. But let's just kind of put it this way: like, if this film was made in the US at the same time, it would be called, you know, compared to, like, Reaganism. If it was made now, you'd refer it back to, like, you know, the Trump era and that kind of level of excess, or you would look at, like, Boris Johnson's, like, Tory party at the same time. Like, it's something that's incredibly relatable now as much as it was back then, but also it's like a tragic reminder of us, like, well, we've not really moved forward particularly much. We're kind of still in the same boat even after, like, 30 odd years or something of our society kind of pretty much stomping on the lower classes, and that's kind of really what it is. So,
or maybe not even in the same boat, but maybe in a little submarine.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Getting crushed in the ocean.
And I think we're probably worse off than we were when this was made, because, like, that was the beginning of our
downfall.
Well, because, you know, you can... comparing it to Reagan, like, Reagan kind of destroyed the middle class by the whole trickle-down economics in the U.S. And so, like, we're here because we haven't eaten the rich yet.
No, but here's the thing: is, like, eat the rich, I feel like, is a very kind of it's a kind of tropey, memey sort of term. But then I also have seen more recently, it's just kind of like, we don't need to eat the rich because the rich are doing a very good job of eating themselves.
Are they?
I think so. I mean,
if they can keep doing it.
Not all of them are doing that, and I feel like
no.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts.
I think this is probably a deeper conversation than it is. I
want more money. That's what I want. Isn't that what it's all about?
Well, I would like to pay less taxes for being, like, someone who is not even really... I'm, like, middle class wage maybe, but I am barely getting by. Like, why? How does that even make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, no, for me to have... Yeah.
I would agree. I don't think it's a case of wanting to have more money, but you want to feel adequately compensated for what you're doing. I think that's all I've ever yearned for, and it's still out with my grasp. So
yeah, and minimum wage should be a living wage. End of story.
Oh god.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes. Otherwise we will literally start eating each other. I mean, I don't know if anyone really fully understands that, is that we will start eating each other.
The tipping point is nigh.
It is coming. It is coming. But
do you want to hear more about the colors of this film?
Yeah, let's.
Oh wait, could I go through, like, my notes that I had on my color palette?
Yes, of course you can.
So I wrote down, I was like, color palettes: restaurant, red; kitchen, green; bathroom, white; outside, blue; book depository is brown and earth tones; hospital is yellow/beige. And those are the only two that are outside of the restaurant, is the book depository and the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some lovely little visual flourishes which have no sort of rhyme or reason, but I like the fact that they're there. I think there's a shot in Blade Runner where... Okay, so hold on. There's a scene in Blade Runner where Deckard first meets Rachel and he does the Voight comp test, and she's coming out from the window and you can see, like, a shimmering effect that's, like, just happening, and they're just like, what's that there for? And it's like, no, it's just nice. We'll just put it there. And the same shimmering effect is when Helen Mirren finds, you know, what's-his-face, Michael, after he's been murdered. And there's like this weird watery shimmering effect that just kind of happens.
That does happen.
For no other reason, and it's not explainable, but it's certainly never out of place. And you're quite happy with the fact that you're like, oh, isn't that nice? Isn't that a lovely thing to see?
I did notice that. I think I kind of looked at you, but I didn't say anything. I was like, oh, that was weird.
But I think inside my head, and I don't think I wrote it down because I was like, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to be like, I'm going to make a Blade Runner reference today.
Anytime that you can.
Well, it's also the anniversary of that movie by, what's it
41.
41 years? Mm-hmm. Holy shit, the greatest film ever made. Anyway, carry on.
The thing about the color palettes that's so interesting as well is that it's not just about the set, but every single time one of the actors moves through one of the rooms, their color of their costume changes.
Their wardrobe changes,
but it's the same exact costume.
Well, it's so like that took me by surprise because I did not remember that the costume completely changes. And so whenever she goes into the bathroom for the first time and it's completely white, I'm like, wait, did I miss something? Like, is this a different day? Like,
right.
Is she, like, did we jump timelines? Like, what is happening? And then, like, oh yeah, it's just the same outfit, but in white. And then when she goes back out into the restaurant, it's red again. And it might have something to do with, like, moods.
Yeah.
Different types of moods and colors meaning different things. I mean, that would make sense too.
Yeah, absolutely. Her cigarettes also change color.
They do, yeah.
I didn't notice that.
The papers around the cigarettes change color. Because when she's in the hallway, after she comes out of the bathroom, the skins are red, and in other times they're also green.
And then she's in the bathroom and they're white.
They're white, yeah. So there's a really nice attention to detail. And I mean, I don't, like, none of it ever feels out of place. And I do understand, like, the minute it does happen and you notice it, it does feel slightly jarring. Where you're just kind of like, huh. But then you kind of just take it on the chin and you're like, well, everything up to this point has been so fucking mental. Like, it really doesn't matter to me exactly if this is meant to make too much of a way of sense.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about it being fucking mental.
Yeah, you know what? And you're absolutely right. I have a lot of like interesting notes about just the artistry and this and that. But I want to talk about this chef getting dog shit shoved in his mouth and all over his body.
Was that a chef?
We had to watch it a couple times, and I'm pretty sure that they said he was like a chef, but he wasn't doing a job or something.
So he's replaced by Borst?
Yeah, by the whatever his name is, Richard.
Richard Borst is the chef, cook.
I don't. Yeah.
Am I wrong? I thought that's what I had gathered.
There's no kind of proper explanation in the film as to what that is, but he is a cook. And for whatever reason, he's maybe just cooked something wrong or not to the Gambinator's liking, to the point where Gambon and Tim Roth and the whole fucking litany of folk that he has under his spell, just humiliate this man to within an inch of his fucking moral life. Like, he is fucked. By the end of this moment.
The movie opens with them like stripping this man down, and we see our first penis in the film 3 minutes in.
Yep.
And then they're smearing dog shit all over his body into his mouth.
Yeah.
And then there's these 2 trucks of meat that are just sitting outside, and it's not really clear if they're like refrigerated trucks, and we find out that they're not.
Yeah,
later.
They're pretty fresh
at
the moment.
It's such a cool and interesting thing that they revisit much, much later into the film, and then you find out it's like those trucks never leave, but they're never, like, there's never any sort of collect. Like, it's so fucked up. It's so unbelievably fucked. But this is the opening shot of the movie. The movie starts off with a bang, pretty much. It's the initial credit sequence. There's this long jib shot from, like, what I would say is, like, the underbelly of the restaurant, where it's a bunch of dogs, like, eating discarded meat, and then it jibs up from the city underbelly, and then we see the Hollandaise, which is obviously the restaurant. But it always looks like it's an unfinished, like, front of the restaurant. Like, it's always covered in it's like scaffold, but then it's also like sheets of plastic and stuff that are over the top of it. And obviously there's like wind machines, because it's all sets and stuff. It's all wind machines, always like it's all fluttering, it's all making noise, it's all kind of like looking cool and stuff like that. And then these trucks show up, then a car shows up. And then obviously the moment happens with this chef that they strip off naked, and they immediately cover him in dog shit.
Yeah, it's like a really chaotic beginning, and it's hard to adjust. Like I feel like going into it, you're just like you're thrown into the middle of this chaos, and you have to be like, oh. There's a lot of Cockney happening, and this man is getting stripped down and beat up and smeared with, it kind of looks like chocolate, but I'm guessing it's dog shit because there's dogs in the proximity, and it's just like this whole thing, and then just like the aftermath of it is just like this swarm of thugs, like they finish what they're doing and they go inside, and then the rest of the staff just, it's like a normal day. They come in, the guy who's completely naked, covered in dog shit, he wanders in, and then they hose him down and help him like cleanse himself. But it's just like, that's when you get a moment to breathe.
That Cockney type accent I cannot do.
Oh my gosh, so much Cockney. There were so many things that I missed the first time I watched it because I am not very good at picking up on Cockney, and then like this second time I was like, oh yeah, that's what happened. That was what was happening here, because like some of it is just so like chaotic in the beginning, and they talk so fast.
There were times where I said in the beginning to Ryan, I wish this had subtitles, and it's not because I don't understand, it's because they are speaking so fast and I feel like I need to catch up.
Yeah, because I'm trying to take everything in, and it's like
it's insane. We watched it a few times
when
we first started
to,
it, because our dog, as we've talked about before, hates
other dogs
on the
screen.
TV, and especially when the dogs on the screen actually are fighting. There's an actual dog fight happening on the screen while a man is being stripped naked by thugs.
Yeah.
Again, covered in poo-poo, which was chocolate mousse. You're right. It was chocolate mousse.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
But it was
to
poop.
Me.
It was dog poop. Tim Roth is dressed like a fancy pirate. And then Michael Gambon gets the dog poop on his hand and slaps Tim Roth in the face. And he gets poop on his face.
Yeah.
And then Michael Gambon, the head gangster, pisses on the chef.
Yeah.
And
I forgot. Yeah, he pisses all over him.
He says he needed a drink.
Need a wee drink. It's a wash
it's
down his
Albert
dessert.
Albert is the gangster.
Character's name.
Yeah, Gambon.
The thief.
Yeah, Michael Gambon's. I mean, is this not like his seminal role? Really? I mean, this might be his greatest role.
It's probably his greatest role.
Because...
But no one will remember this. It'll always be Harry Potter.
No, it's the problem is like it'll just... Well, what do you mean?
Like it.
In Harry Potter, he plays the replacement from...
He plays Dumbledore for most of the films.
Because he replaced Richard Harris after he died. Yeah, okay, well... I would rather he's not remembered for that.
Well,
he would rather be remembered for that. Yeah, well, I know I don't have a choice.
Yeah, until they make this available on streaming platforms for people. That's when people will actually watch them and like know about them.
Yeah,
because this is all like,
he's like a machine gun artist. Like he never stops talking.
No, he doesn't stop talking throughout the entire film.
It's like 2 hours of just Gambon just riffing like fuck, like crazy Cockney gangster stuff.
Yeah, and it's kind of an endurance test with that because you're just like, okay, there's a lot going on, there's chaos, and this guy is just like being really foul and just talking and like fucking with everybody. Like he's always in people's faces and like pouring stuff on his wife's food.
I mean, how many people can say they've slapped Dame Helen Mirren in the face with a menu?
Oof, when that happened, I was like, holy fuck. Because it even looked like it took her by surprise when it happened. Yeah, because I was just like, oh, shit.
I mean, he punches her in the stomach.
Yeah, he fucks her up.
He slaps her in the face. Everyone's getting beat up, like little kids are getting beat up.
There's a
Oh, the belly button.
no one's safe in this film from the Gambonator.
Quite horrible. He might be one of the worst characters I've ever seen.
Yeah, he is one of the greatest screen villains of all time.
Yes,
like he's
agreed.
Just, yeah. And he's
amazing at it. And it's like I kind of liked him too, but he is a horrible piece of shit.
I mean, I'm gonna put myself out there and say like he is effectively the main saving grace of this film, because I don't know who would replace him in this film in order to deliver a better performance.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I don't really know who that person would be.
I couldn't imagine someone else carrying this like he did.
Well, it's interesting because it was something I wasn't going to bring up but then I mentioned it to Ryan. He goes, "You should talk about this." So the 4 title characters in the film were named after the actors that Greenaway actually originally intended. So Richard the Cook was for Richard Boehringer, and it was the only original choice that actually was cast.
And he's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very good.
Albert was named after Albert Finney. So,
which, I also think it might have been a really good choice, but I'm also not particularly interested in seeing the Albert Finney version of this character.
Georgina was named for Georgina Hale, which was his wife.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. No, it wasn't. Georgina wasn't his wife, but it was for Georgina Hale. Sorry, I got confused with wife.
Yes.
And then Michael was named after Michael Gambon. So Michael Gambon was originally intended to play the lover.
Yes.
But then ended up playing Albert.
Oh.
So, yeah. Kind of weird.
Yeah, so there was I like the fact that Greenaway had the balls to just be like, well, these are exactly who I'm writing these roles for, and then he was expecting to get them. But then they ended up kind of swapping roles and stuff like that.
Except for the cook.
Except for the
cook.
But then the cook's like one of the best character actors in the film in general, and then obviously Gambon just brings a fucking tour de force. And whether or not you love or hate like Helen Mirren, I think Helen Mirren does a very good job.
Who hates Helen Mirren?
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I don't think I've ever met anyone who doesn't like Helen Mirren.
I mean,
do you know what Ryan said to me? You weren't here, Kat.
I don't know if we can repeat that story, because I can't say that and put it out there, and then I might get in trouble.
You're not gonna get in trouble.
I might get in trouble because even say it, because I'm gonna cut it out. I'm gonna cut it out because I'll tell you the story. So here's the. I used to work at.
What the hell? I was like, I'm just gonna give you like a very brief glance of what he said.
That's not gonna bite you in the arse later.
I don't have a problem with Helen Mirren.
Thanks, Katie, because we are going to cut this out. I can't put this out in the general public. I can't do that.
You do realize that the way that I said it was perfectly fine,
vague.
right?
Keep it vague.
Yeah.
I guess not.
You definitely didn't need to go that far. So
that's fine.
You can keep in a little bit because it's funny.
No specifics.
So there is a love story within this, which is beautiful, sexy, gross, and tragic all together. And it's obviously we have, the wife and the lover. And I really, really like Michael the lover because he's so basic.
Yeah, Alan Howard, who plays a bookkeeper in the movie.
Yeah, and they see each other for the first time in the restaurant. Like, and it's always chaos when Gambon's around, and he's always around.
He's always there, always making a scene, always saying something.
Super, super loud.
But, like, this chance meeting is incredibly innocuous, and it purely stands out just completely by the fact that, like, Gambon is eating, like, not only just the scenery, but obviously everything within the scenery, and obviously all of the air that everyone is consuming at every single moment in time, in every single scene that he's in.
Well, they also don't really talk to each other. The wife and the lover, I think it's like half an hour into the film or later. Don't they have that conversation together?
They don't talk to each other until Gambon, like, introduces them. Like, he forces Michael to come over and introduces him to Georgina, and then afterwards they have that conversation. They're like, oh, he introduced us, like, this is the first time, like, he broke our silence.
There's also this beautiful little self-referential moment where he's talking about a film within the film, where he's like, that character did not talk until 30 minutes into the movie, which is, funnily enough, 30 minutes into the 2-hour cut that we watched, which I like. I like the fact that a film can be that self-referential about itself.
Which is about the time that we see his penis, too, because I have it 34 minutes in.
Yep.
We see Michael's penis and a fully nude Mirren.
Yes. So So just obviously to preface this, the next few times that we do see penis and stuff, it's usually accompanied by a fully nude Helen Mirren. And I know Laura kind of put out there that, like, if we are going to see any sort of, let's just say, like, I'm going to, not to be crass, but, like, bush, we better see some dick, is pretty much what you said. Yeah.
Absolutely. If I am going to see anyone's vagina, I need to see a penis.
Yeah.
So but obviously there is a way more penis in this movie than there is vagina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
Absolutely.
As it stands, this film probably sits about second to, say, Short Bus, I would say, in terms of, like, the level of amount of penis stuff that we see in it.
Yeah. So far. I mean, there's definitely more.
Yes. Oh no, there's so much
that we have to uncover.
There's so much more to There's so much more to explore. But yes, the film, like, let's just put it this way: the film follows a very simplistic structure where we're in the restaurant, they're all having a meal. There's a lot of conversing and stuff like that, and a lot of the dialogue. Like, I would second like Gambon's performance and, like, the quality of the dialogue to what Ben Kingsley is receiving in Sexy Beast, that Jonathan Glazer movie. Like, the writing in this film is exquisite in terms of just, like, the way the dialogue is received, the way the dialogue is performed. Like, it's insane.
The dialogue is mostly put forth by Gambon.
It's so good. So unbelievably good. But it's just, a lot of it's very kind of throwaway. I mean, there's one moment here where, like, there's a conversation and, like, this line just, like, spoke to me for whatever fucking reason, just popped out. And it was something about, he threatened someone. He says, "I'm going to make you eat your own shit after forcing it out of your dick like toothpaste."
Oh, I didn't even hear that line in the film.
I didn't either.
I wrote it down and I thought it was amazing. But it's just like this man at, like, the height of his, like, pomposity and just, like, pulling this stuff out, and he feels like he can just get away with doing fucking anything. I mean, there's that's the same point where Tim Roth is looking a little bit ill because he's eating seafood, and he, like, literally just, like, vomits onto his plate for no reason. He's like, for fuck's sake, you get a little bit of decorum at the table. Don't go sitting there fucking, vomiting on your plate. I was going to do a Gambon impression the entire episode, but I honestly can't do it. I honestly can't. It's so tiring.
Yeah, that sounds exhausting to do and also to converse with.
There's also a lovely moment, and it's just because we're getting to this, because there's a lot of really kind of weird things that happen in the movie as well. It's like one of the guys, let's say the gangsters, he's going on about, like, I can't believe it, I haven't had celery this good, and Gambon's like, that's not celery, it's asparagus, all this sort of stuff, which I thought was hilarious.
Well, yeah, you've got, I mean, and also the reason that we're in this restaurant in the first place is because the gangster Gambon bought this restaurant because he thinks that, having nice and fancy things means that you're a nice and fancy person.
Yes.
And so he's just trying to put on all these airs. But you have Michael, the lover, who's been eating at this restaurant every single day, for God knows how many years. And so, the reason that he's meeting Helen Mirren in the first place is because gangster Gambon bought this restaurant.
Yeah.
So immediately, like, day one, the first night, I assume that they're eating at this restaurant, the gangsters, is when Helen Mirren clocks this bookish dude hanging out in the corner that's been there, for years probably.
Yeah.
Hanging out eating dinner and
reading his books.
At dinner alone.
In his very brown earth tone suit.
Yes, his brown blazer that he never doesn't wear. That brown. That's his color palette.
Well, it's a suit. It's a suit set.
Oh, is it a whole suit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His very baggy slacks that he wears with it.
Yeah, very different to the kind of outfits like well, Tim Roth is the only one that was like dressed like a pirate that time, but they all wear outfits that kind of look like that painting that's behind them in the restaurant.
Yes, I think
So
it's
that
like...
was the kind of how they designed a lot of the costumes was from that particular painting, which was the banquet of the officers of the St. George Militia Company in 1616
Yes.
by Franz Hals.
Yes, another Flemish painter. But I guess it's a reflection of the decadence that's going on inside the restaurant as well, which is, effectively what that is. Because like that painting itself is very much an updated version of like The Last Supper as well, which is kind of a very similarly kind of themed sort of painting as sung. So
There was a couple of moments where they were all standing around like Michael Gambon like at the table that looked very much Last Supper-y.
yeah,
So
but it's
One thing with like the color and like going back to his brown suit, because like his suit matches his surroundings of his home and where he stays, which is the depository, the book depository. But like everyone else, when they enter into a certain room, usually the color palette of whatever they're wearing changes to that room. But he's the only one where his clothing, it never changes.
yeah.
yes,
Which I think
did
is
like that.
kind of interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It also lends to the argument that there's an incredible focus on just the attention to detail and the characterization, because Greenaway's very much a proprietor of film as a visual medium. As much as like there's a lot of dialogue and there's a lot of like very well delivered dialogue in this, and this is maybe the most accessible film of his because it's got quite a relatively simplistic thematic story, and you can like, you can apply it to yourself and you can understand it and it makes all sense and stuff like that. But also he is very much a visuals filmmaker. He thinks that films should be visual, which is also something I agree with. Is like it is a visual medium, and everything that you see should help to convey the amount of information that you should be seeing, as opposed to, and I guess a level of procrastination within the writing of the film. So that's something I definitely agree with and I admire in his work.
He said that he wouldn't be a filmmaker if paintings could have soundtracks.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
That's not a direct quote, but roundabout that.
Yeah. I do. I like his approach to filmmaking. I think that's kind of the main thing that I do. I think it's a lot of things that people forget nowadays making films, and effectively like, well, it's more like the argument between like, do we make films as art or do we make films as content? Like that's kind of how I'm seeing kind of the modern age of filmmaking now. So
I want to talk about the kitchen, the big bagels on the wall, and the sex scene, which is the second penis scene of this film, because the first time that they get together is in the bathroom. So you're in the white bathroom, they're in the stall together, the lover and the wife.
Oh yeah, she's gonna like give him a blowjob or something, but they don't really get too far.
Yeah, but I think Ryan kept saying while we were watching, "It's not yet, Laura. Not yet. It's not coming out yet." And I'm like, well, it came. I mean, we already saw one. So I wouldn't be surprised, but no,
you see some of the hair around his shaft, but not.
You see there's a
there's like a bit of little peak of shaft hair when he's like trying to button up whenever
that scene
Albert
was
like storms
terrifying,
in.
by the way, because it's all about these two people trying to have an affair under Michael Gambon's nose, because she thinks that if she's doing it when he's like around, and that he'll never notice.
Yeah,
that's
like
the involved in his own world.
Which it makes sense, like her explanation of like, well, if I'm doing it like right when he's around, then he's not really going to be paying attention, because he's so involved in messing with other people and putting other people down and just being like a general asshole.
It's just so funny that she keeps saying, you know, oh, I'm going to go to the bathroom, and he doesn't like her doesn't like her smoking cigarettes around him.
No.
Because I guess it's not proper, right?
Well, there's
So
also...
he just thinks that she's smoking in the bathroom.
She's smoking in the bathroom, or she's just shitting all the time.
Well, the thing
because
is,
he keeps
like,
bringing up about the fact that, like, did you wipe your bum? Do you need help wiping your bum? Did you wipe the toilet seat before you sat down? We don't know where these people have been.
Well, there's
He's
obsessed. There's a lot of like fixation on like her anus from like Gambon's character in this movie, and then we kind of find out later that like he's violated her in certain ways regarding like, you know, that sort of foul play.
And she also hints at his like fixation with her asshole and like how he might not be attracted to women in that way. And so maybe a lot of his like jerkiness and his anger might come from repressed homosexuality. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of hinted at a little bit.
Yeah. He doesn't like any women, regardless of whether or not he likes his wife. He doesn't like any women in this movie. I mean, he stabs a woman in the face for talking back to him at one point.
That fork.
That fork. And he has no time whatsoever. He sees women as like secondary in the human race. Like, he just does not like women generally.
Well, they're merchandise, and he called Helen Mirren basically his property. He's like, you better not be touching yourself. That's mine.
He refers to her as like an asset, not as a person, effectively. So
in the scene, whenever like he drags Pup outside, Pup is the boy
the wee singing boy
who likes to sing soprano
while washing the dishes.
Which, side note, one of my favorite things about this movie that I like remembered from watching it before was like, I want to watch this again because of the little albino boy who's like singing soprano. But anyways, like whenever Albert Gambon, who plays Albert, he like drags Pup out with Georgina, and then like he beats her up, and then he's trying to like get her and Pup to do something sexual. It's really weird, and then like it's far away, like you can't see like the details of what's happening in the car really, but it seems like he either rapes her or obviously he's abusing her in some way, because then she has bruises in the next scene. But I wanted to know if y'all thought like that was like a rape had happened, or what had occurred during that. I
mean, I hasten to use the word borderline whenever kind of referring to anything that might be distinguished as rape. But for the most part, like what you do see is that he beats the living fuck out of her, and she has bruises all over her body in the next scene. But yeah, I mean, what we're dealing with here is, like, he beats her black and blue, and he abuses her, he violates her. I mean, he's probably raping her on a nearby daily basis.
Well, she goes into detail about it, like how there's objects that are in their bedroom, and if she wouldn't insert them into herself, then he would do it. Yeah. And so she was like, well, it doesn't hurt as much when I do it. Mm-hmm. And so, like, that just shows, like, the kind of world that she's living in. Yeah. But she also, whenever he introduces Michael to Georgina, she like starts pushing the line a little bit by saying like, oh, I see a gynecologist, and she starts talking about like she hints at like the abuse causing miscarriages, I think.
Yeah, because he's desperate for them to have children as well, but it's obvious that this kind of cyclical abuse that seems to be going on in their relationship is obviously the primary reason that's preventing them from having children.
Yeah, because she has she says, I had 3 miscarriages, and the doctor said that like my insides, like it's not going to happen.
They're broken, yeah. Yeah, talking about, well, I think we can go into, I mean, I guess we kind of skimmed over it, but obviously the last big scene was them in the bagel room. The big bagel room is what I refer to it as, where they're completely naked. But
oh, right. So yeah, the lover and Georgina are in they're in the kitchen because they're in a couple different rooms in the kitchen that have different kind of backgrounds. This one had big bagels on the wall that I remember specifically. There's another one later on that has pheasants on the wall.
Oh yeah, we get a tour of the kitchen.
Oh yeah,
via their sex spots.
Because this one's really 34 minutes in. Let me just get that out there. But
I really liked this moment in the movie as well, though, because it felt like a genuine kind of lovers moment, and they're completely. I mean, I wrote it down here as naked, because I thought it was funny, but also like it's a very like. You know, because we talk about the staging and stuff. I implore anyone just to watch the movie, because I'm not fucking describing every frame of this film like whatsoever. But there's a lovely kind of like Nicholas Roeg type like edited sequence for this film where as they're making love, it's intercut with images of the sous chefs or the prep chefs cutting like vegetables and stuff.
Yes.
And there's a kind of weird sensuality kind of going on with how it intercuts with, say, like, Helen and Alan having quite hard sex with each other to, obviously, a chef cutting up a cucumber. Which, for whatever reason, I was just like, that fucking works.
Yeah, it's something that you would imagine,
weird,
watching people, making love or kissing or being intimate with each other totally naked in a restaurant where there's lots of food being prepared and seeing that cut with chopping of a cucumber. You think that would be quite frightening,
and I refer to like Nicholas,
but it wasn't.
I refer to like Nicholas Roeg because obviously in Don't Look Now there's a sex scene between Dollar Sullivan, I can't remember her name, that's intercut with them having sex whilst intercut with them getting dressed and ready for the evening, which I think is very clever. But anyway, carry on.
It's always a scary thing when they get together because they'll even time it. I only have 4 minutes. I only have 5 minutes because that's how long she can get away with like being in the toilet.
I think it's really nice.
I
this
think
whole
so too.
idea where it's just kind of like we have 5 minutes that could make or break this relationship, and
or their lives,
or his life, and it's just kind of this idea that his attention span or what interests him could be made or broken within 5 minutes because he compares that to how he felt about a character he saw in a movie where the character didn't speak, but then within 5 minutes he completely lost interest. So it was kind of more a case of just like, well, if we don't lose interest within 5 minutes, we're obviously made for each other.
But Albert is always after her. She's in the toilet, and she wouldn't even be in the toilet for very long, and he is following her. He goes into the bathroom to try and find her. He goes into the kitchen to try and find her. And it seems like everyone's kind of aware that there's something going on, even in the early bits, but no one says anything because everyone fucking hates him.
No one likes him.
So no one's going to be on his side necessarily. And
then the staff is like
totally on their side.
Yeah, they're like, we get it.
Facilitating this affair, which is interesting. Never was said. It was never a conversation. But the chef or the cook and all the kitchen staff, they're like totally fine with it. Oh, here's a little spot. They'll even walk through. There was that one moment where didn't they go through to get a pheasant? And then they're like totally naked, just, enjoying each other's bodies.
Well, and then they had to get even more involved whenever, so like an hour into the movie, so we're halfway through the movie is when the one of the thug's girlfriends sees her with her lover.
Yeah, this is the poor woman that gets stabbed in the face.
Yeah, she gets stabbed in the face with a fork, but like she tells Albert like, oh, your wife's like screwing that like bookish guy that's always reading over there. And like, so the staff has to get involved in like making sure that they don't get caught together.
Yes.
And like this involves like the one guy getting in a truck, backing it up to, it's like full of rotting meat, which I'm really not sure why there's a truck of rotting meat.
So good.
Yeah,
and
that whole part.
Yeah,
they
back up the truck of rotting meat. The cook shoves them into the freezer for a second and then like maneuvers them around. And so like the whole staff is helping them to escape
Yeah.
this
Misdirection for Albert, while Albert's running around screaming, "I'll kill him and then I'll eat him."
Yes.
Yeah.
Over and
Yes.
over and over again, running through the kitchen, breaking everything.
Weird foreshadowing.
Interesting. But yeah, because I didn't know what was going to happen while we were watching it.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
And then I kept hearing him say that, and I even wrote it down. I was like,
Mm.
why is he saying I'm going to eat
Yeah.
him? That's weird.
The thing is, yeah,
That's a crazy thing to say.
I'd seen.
It's a very odd threat to
It's an
make.
it's an odd threat. It's also
Well, they
probably
do-
one of the most intimidating threats. It's also it's maybe less intimidating than what are you going to do about it?
Well, they do talk about it earlier in the film. Is Albert is when he's threatening like Tim Roth. It's
Yeah.
like I'm gonna make you eat balls. Like I'm gonna make you eat someone's
Like
balls.
bollocks and stuff.
You
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so there's talk even early on about eating.
He makes really strange threats.
Very weird threats, but it's also kind of like it's this shroud of homosexuality as well. It's like he's gonna eat this dude, he's gonna eat your balls, he's gonna cut off your dick, he's gonna do all this sort of stuff. It all gets a little bit gay. It all kind of adds to his character as well from the things that we spoke about.
Well, it's also like it plays into his character of like wanting to own other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like
yeah.
I think the ultimate like owning someone else is eating them, consuming them, so then
Yes.
they won't exist anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. This whole moment where, you know, Albert's running around saying he's going to eat the guy for having sex with his wife
Yeah.
is really, I know we've already kind of talked about it, but I just think it's so beautiful because these two people are in this intimate moment and then they're getting chased around and just trying to survive and they're naked the whole time.
Yeah.
And they're just naked, and it's not even a thought. They're just like the cook is chauffeuring him around this way, other people
Yeah.
are chauffeuring him around this way, and they're naked. And he's like, "I'll grab your clothes, don't worry." But they never get their clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, they get put into that disgusting van.
That fucking shot.
They're
that
covered
shot
in
is
just, like-
unbelievably cool.
It's so cool.
It's so cool. It looks like a womb in hell. Like it genuinely
yeah.
does.
Well, yeah,
It
and
looks
I
fucking
think
horrific.
I think that is by design because it looks so
Yeah.
much like a womb, and then it's like it's like a rebirth.
Absolutely,
like
yeah.
they're already naked, so they're in their birthday suit. You know, you're getting born out of this womb from hell, and then they get sprayed down.
just
Yeah.
like the first chef.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
is also effectively what is the third penis scene. I don't know if we're counting the last scene as being a penis scene as well, but this is
Well, it all kind of goes
This is a
together.
real scene. Yeah, it all
This
kinda
is
goes
about an
together.
hour 18 minutes in, hour 18, hour 19.
and they hose them down after coming out of the truck. And I don't know what it is about these trucks, but we are shown the degradation of these trucks over the course of the movie as well, because these trucks never leave, obviously, the front of the restaurant. And there was this weird moment kind of earlier on, and I put this down in inverted commas, it's like surreal imagery, but there's like a woman sucking on a giant ice cube, and there's like pigs' heads and stuff like behind her. So obviously this is the same truck that they get stowed away in.
Do you wonder if it's because he's like a new restaurateur, because he just took over this restaurant, and it looks like he's changing the name, right?
Yeah,
He
He has all those
Yeah.
neon signs. He's going to change the name of the restaurant.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
gonna change it to his name and the cook's name, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's just him not knowing how to run a restaurant, is where he's like, I don't.
It's like,
do I
oh.
have to order all the
It's
food?
like, oh, I
do I have
forgot.
to get these trucks
Oh,
out of here?
I delivered all this food, but I forgot to put it in the chiller.
Yeah, like who orders all the food?
Kind of like Tesco.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And we did mention about Pup, because the restaurant, even after these two escape, the restaurant's feeding them, which is really weird because it's like they're walking all the food over to the bookseller's place, which I don't know how far away it is.
I mean,
Yeah, they're not very good at like covert operations because they have
No.
like Pup, who is like the most recognizable person
yes.
delivering this food and walking it, and then he is like, "Oh, can I, borrow a book?" And like the books have the address of the depository on them.
Stamp in them. Yeah.
Not a great place to hide.
And I'm gonna point this out as well: is that Pup looks like a cyberpunk version of the Milky Boy Kid.
I don't know what that means.
Milky Boy Kid.
What is that?
Milky Boy Kid. The Milky Boy Kid who's strong and tough. The only one that is good enough. The creamiest milk. The whitest bar.
Is this a Scottish?
The Milky Bar Kid. Everyone knows the Milky Bar Kid, right?
No.
Anyway, so do you know?
Okay.
Do you know of Milky Bars?
No.
Like a Milky Way?
No. Milky Bars are like a white. They were like a white chocolate. No, just a plain white chocolate. You must have white chocolate here, right?
Yeah,
we do have white chocolate, but I've never heard of a Milky Bar.
Yeah, this must be a. So the Milky Bar Kid was this. Let's put the word out there, Aryan child who had glasses and was dressed as a cowboy and had blonde hair and like dead white skin, and they called him the Milky Bar Kid.
You're gonna have to like post a picture of this kid on whenever you post this episode. Just have a picture of the Milky Bar Kid.
We'll do a side by side comparison, and I only just came out with it, but then also I was like, oh, no one's got Milky Bars over here, so that's fine.
He's an albino.
Yeah, he's an albino. Yeah, let's put it out that way. Yeah.
But is he a soprano?
Or if it was, me, myself, and Irene, they would call him a Q-tip. But yes, same thing.
Yeah, that movie,
Yeah.
Well,
oh my God, it's a giant Q-tip.
Yeah, because they get the most obvious delivery boy for their meals.
Yeah.
And, he took the book.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're going to find out where he was, which is... What? Okay, and this is when they torture that boy and take all of his buttons off of his outfit.
And then he's like, "There's no buttons left. I guess we're gonna have to like get the belly button." And I was like,
"Oh, I thought he meant like his dick."
No, belly button.
No, he was gonna like pluck out his belly button.
I thought they were gonna castrate that child.
No,
genuinely,
but like
a button, but
like a button dick.
Yeah,
no, but
because he's a kid.
I felt like I feel like scooping out someone's belly button is like way like what?
Well, scooping out a belly button seems like certain death. Cutting off a penis, less so, but also a bigger power move.
Is it certain death? What happens if someone cuts out your belly button?
Insides.
No, but it's just on your belly. It depends on what sort of belly button do you have. Do you have an innie or an outie?
I would assume it's an innie.
Mine's an innie because it's inside.
Correct.
Yes.
Some people
that's
have fine.
Outies.
They could cut out the belly button. That's fine. I genuinely thought they were going to cut his little wiener off.
No, they didn't.
Oh no, they were talking about his belly button.
It's just his belly
he just
button.
talked so fast.
It's also like a belly button's like a weirdly sensitive area on a human's body as well. The idea of them sticking a knife anywhere near that kind of made me feel a little bit gross.
Well, that whole thing is very upsetting. Just this young boy who's so scared.
Let's
and
just
he
make
has
sure that
buttons in his mouth.
Let's just make sure that you know it's incredibly upsetting to watch.
It's very upsetting.
It's
and then
not
the kid
funny.
passes out because he's so scared.
Well,
He
and
does,
also
he's
like
petrified.
he is the most innocent thing in this movie. Like he's this little angelic boy who doesn't do anything to anyone, and he just likes to sing soprano while he's like cleaning dishes. Like he doesn't do anything wrong, and then he gets tortured.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's doing something nice, and then
and then Michael, our lover, knows he's doing something that he shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
He's doing it for love, I assume.
But here's the thing, there's also this gradual change in attitude towards Gambon, where even his like henchmen realize that he's going further than they would be expecting to. So
Except for Tim Roth, who's like, whatever, man.
Tim Roth is I'll climb the mountain with you, sir. Like, I'll do whatever I need to do. Even though he treats him like he treats him worse than any of the other ones, other than Helen Mirren, obviously.
Yeah.
Treats him like a fucking piece of shit.
Well, it's because it's like his little like protege who's gonna follow him no matter what.
Yes. I mean, by the time you get to the end of the movie, he only has two, let's say, henchmen. Be it one of them is Tim Roth, and the other one is Liz Smith, who's the grandmother from from the royal family fame. So
Yeah.
Oh, one thing that I thought was strange, whenever he's talking about it, he's talking about like so is bookkeeper like a term in the UK? Not okay. Because I was just like, in the US, bookkeeper is someone who keeps like
an accountant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just like, is he just using this wording correctly? Like I was
Yes.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think it's very literal. He just keeps books,
I thought it was
and
like
he
just like a
sells.
bookshop
He
corner.
sells books.
Well,
to
because
people.
like his henchman says like, oh, what are we gonna do about like this bookseller is going to be a problem, and he says bookseller versus bookkeeper, and so I was like, is this another thing that shows like how dumb Albert is, or is that like a term that's used in the UK?
I mean, I would use the word accountant kind of more back home. Bookkeeper is also used for someone who's an accountant as well. Like, and if you're, you keep your books up to date and stuff like that. But he's more like a bookseller in this movie. So
Yeah. So whenever he's talking about it, he says like.
I tried my best. That was really rough, and I'm not even gonna cut that out.
Gross. You're not even gonna cut that out.
No.
So whenever he's talking about the bookkeeper, he mentions he's like, "Oh, he's 40, same age as me," and I'm like, "What? These people are supposed to be 40?"
Yeah.
And I looked it up, and Helen Mirren was 44.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also had to look up how old Helen Mirren is now because Helen Mirren.
You made some comments.
No, I think Helen Mirren is so beautiful, and I think she's so sexy, but she's been older for a long time.
Like, she's kind of like Maggie Smith. Like, it feels like she's been like 80 years old for like our entire lives.
Which is weird because Liz Smith in the movie is only meant to be 32.
Oh, shit. But I mean, I think she looks incredible. She's got a great body, still does. And
she does look good in the film.
It's Helen Mirren. She's incredible. So
she's a national treasure at this point.
She really is.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the point of that was. She's just great.
Yeah, she looks. Are you saying she looks good for her age in the film?
Because they're all like 40. I thought that was very funny because Albert was so upset. The fact that she was having an affair with that guy because he's the same age. If it was a younger guy, I'd be less upset.
Yeah, he saying like if it was a younger guy, it would be fine because it would just be sex. But since it's a man who's like my age, that means that it means something more, and it's not going to just be like a passing fling.
Well, I always thought it wasn't so much about their age because I don't think age is so much of the barrier here. It's that she can't stand his character anymore, so that she's migrated to. I mean, I guess in like Gambon's mind, or like his idealization is that he's a smart man. He's like a well-dressed man. He's kind of like this, as opposed to obviously his idealized sense of who Gambon is meant to kind of be in the movie. A lesser kind of individual.
Well, it seems like she's probably done this before as well, because she said that she's left him 3 times.
To be fair,
before.
I'm not fucking surprised. I really am not.
Well, yeah.
He's
making her put like a champagne bottle up her butthole. Like, I'd probably not want to stick around, but then, you're in a really dangerous situation.
Yeah.
Well, in the most dangerous situation, whenever you're in a domestic abuse situation like that, is usually when you... Whoop.
Oh, fuck, I'm there.
The most dangerous part is when you try to leave.
Right.
Is when you usually get murdered.
Yeah. It's when the emotions run high. It's kind of fucked up. It's horrible. But I mean,
Is it as horrible as What Happens to Michael, the bookseller?
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for us to kind of just get
Yeah,
to this
well,
bit where
we could go
'Cause
into that.
you know he's going to die.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
doomed.
Even without thinking that, because it just makes sense, because he says he's gonna kill him, he's gonna eat him, he's having sex with his wife, and
this is
also
a,
I
yeah,
knew
this is
he
a
was
revenge
gonna,
story. Like it has to end a certain way.
I knew he was gonna kill him when you saw the kind of the front of the bookshop where they're having this affair, where they're holding up.
Yeah.
When she leaves to go see Pup at the hospital, which was a stupid move. But maybe it was a smart move because
Well, she would have been dead too.
she would have died as well, probably, or made to watch the whole thing go down.
Yeah.
But all of the gangsters go to the bookshop, and you see Michael boarding up the shop, right? He locks the doors after Georgina leaves. He puts a big stick on the inside, like boarding up the doors, like
Yeah,
to lock
on glass
glass
doors.
doors.
Yeah.
Glass doors. He is not that smart. Because if he was, he would not have stayed there.
And I've not realized this until now, but you remember when Gambon and his thugs are eventually kind of they're forced to leave the restaurant. When that last person who's got the pie, he leaves, the exact same set of doors that he closes behind himself at the restaurant are an almost exact mirror of the doors to the bookkeeping place. And I don't know if if that scene is before Michael dies or just after he dies. So there's kind of like a relative kind of association there, which is weird. And again,
I can't wait to watch it again.
this is Peter Greenaway, so everything's in symmetry and everything kind of everything looks balanced frame wise. So that's why I'm kind of able to make that association. But they kill him in the worst way possible.
A death fit for a bookseller.
So
But gosh, by the time that we see them, it's already so deep into the torture.
Well,
Yes.
and it's like it's being directed and overseen by Albert, but the person who is actually doing like shoving
Tim
these
Roth.
these pieces of paper into his mouth with a wooden spoon and just shoving them down his throat is
Yes.
Tim Roth.
Did I say that one of Peter Greenaway's traits in his films is painful death?
No, you didn't mention that. But,
I didn't know.
I
It's
can
down
see
here.
that.
It's a, well,
That's
it's
the thing he does.
It's right next to sexual pleasure.
Yes.
So-
well, they go hand in hand as.
But no, he's
as
using
Albert says.
Sex and death.
He's using, and I don't know what it is. It looks like one of those like those letter holder, like those letter stamp things that you would pop like bits of paper on and stuff like that he's using to stuff the pages of this French Revolution book into his mouth.
I thought it was just a wooden spoon.
I also thought it was a wooden spoon, just your classic kitchen wooden spoon.
Because I thought it was something sharp and metallic, so that
But
it was
also-
like it was like cutting his throat as he was like stuffing him full of this book.
I did read when they're talking about this death that he's shoving stuff down his throat with like a spike, like a spiky thing. So that's weird that Kat, you and I both thought it was a spoon, because I thought it was a spoon.
I thought it was. It looked spiky and it looked like one of those kind of letter things that you would pop. bits
Well,
of paper
I'm glad
onto.
we're going to see it on the big screen.
Yeah,
pretty
I am
soon.
excited about the big screen. I'm also excited about all the costumes on the big screen.
Well, because like when
Yes.
you see things on
I'm excited
a
about the staging.
on a large when you see things on a large screen, like you're able to see a lot more details that you don't see whenever you're watching it.
Yeah. Also, this
On television.
this
Yeah.
film on at least our TV. I don't know what our gamma settings are like, but the film is dark. But I would say that that's deliberately so.
yeah, at certain
So
times for sure.
yeah, I would say like it is dark for a reason.
But that death is pretty horrific
Pretty
for
grim.
him.
Pretty grim.
Yeah, the French Revolution.
Yeah.
Right down his mouth. It's so weird because while Tim Roth is shoving the fucking paper in his mouth, he's eating the paper himself. Did you see that?
Yeah.
He's tearing bits off the book and just also putting it in his mouth, and he's actually eating it.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, that's not a dummy person. Like, that's the guy, like, laying on the floor, from what I could tell. So you've got, the actor just laying there on the floor,
Yeah.
naked, covered in blood, makeup. But just getting that stuff shoved in his mouth.
But one of the things that that stunned me is when obviously Helen Mirren discovers him, and she pulls out like rolled up bits of paper that are like stuck in the cavity of his nose that look incredibly long. And then you can see obviously pages and stuff that are kind of stuffed into his mouth, and it's obviously fucking Alan. Yeah. Alan Howard, who's lying there, and he's just had this stuff like stuffed inside of him.
What an actor!
It's the stuff. The scenes that like precede that moment, though, I think are incredibly affecting, and they're incredibly interesting to watch. And she like lies with the dead body, and she's like fully expecting him to wake up and give her a kiss in the morning, and she's gonna have breakfast, and like. She's looking at the brighter side of what her future might have been if this obviously hadn't have happened. But then what follows that is this fantastic scene between her and the cook.
Well, before we move on...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so her going to his corpse and, like, taking the things out of his nose and taking the things out of his mouth, and then, like, her laying down, and she's like, I'm going to tell you about some things in the morning, and you're gonna make me breakfast. And it's this whole like disassociation and like those first stages of grief, I guess, because she hasn't accepted that he's gone.
No.
And so when she does wake up and he's still dead, and she's like, well, I guess I'll have to make myself breakfast, and she tells the corpse about, all of the abuses that she's suffered over the years, and she's able to like unburden herself of these things that she's kept inside for years. And then once she's done that, then she's able to go to the cook and plan revenge.
So the cook almost acts like he's the put upon like funeral director for like what is effectively to come.
I mean, he kind of is.
And I love this moment because like I like the fact that you're talking about like disassociation, and I didn't really kind of realize it until you kind of brought it up, and I'm like, he kind of goes back. He's kind of like this. He's like the comparative to like the Shakespearean observer. Like he starts to recite the things that she starts to doubt in her own mind about, like, well, was our love real? Was our love true? And he's like, well, I remember these moments in the story. It was like, I saw you were naked. I saw you put your mouth on his penis. I saw you kiss.
He was very specific about all the things that he's seen them do together.
So again, like a very extreme and incredibly adult kind of detailed, like, the Shakespearean narrator, I guess, I suppose I would refer to him as. But by the time, like, she's like, I want you to cook him, and I want us to eat him. I want you to cook and prepare my lover the way you would prepare and cook a meal. And you talk about the disassociation, because immediately after he agrees to do it, and the camera does that really long sidetrack from, like, the inside of the restaurant to going outside to then seeing the painting that's obviously front and center within the restaurant as well, like that's outside. She is beyond consolable for that entire period where she's just moaning in grief of like what it is that I guess either the realization of like what has exactly happened to her and what's happened to this situation. So
well, and one thing that's interesting about that conversation she has with the cook is that at first, whenever she's asking him to cook the lover, he keeps saying, no.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going, it's not going to make you feel better to eat him.
Yeah, he didn't understand what she was trying to get at.
Yeah, because he thinks that she wants to eat him so then he can be a part of her. And, like, I guess that makes sense. But, like, she was like, no, I want you to cook him and we will feed him to Albert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is, like, so funny that the cook is like, no, this won't make you feel better. And she's like, yes, it will.
Yeah.
And then immediately he's like, you know what? Okay.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
down.
we could definitely do that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's make it really theatrical as well.
And it's
Super glazed.
super glazed. It's
He also says earlier, there's the part where Michael Gambon is talking about how chefs are like artists and they can put different ingredients or foods or things together and it'll make a completely new flavor. And then he talks about like ham and pineapple and stuff like that, which is what ends up being Michael's body. Because he's got bits of like sliced pineapple on his shoulders.
It's like it's like bits of pineapple or like slices of lemon and stuff like that that are like on his shoulders and things. But the whole sequence starts with, you know, obviously Gambon and his stragglers and stuff. He's brought to like this event that's like he's the only invite and things, and Helen Mirren's like, well, you know, there's friends that are gonna come. And as they bring the body in, it's like a funeral parlor. Like it's that whole tradition kind of outlaying this whole thing, and
he doesn't get it either. They're carrying
yeah,
this body, which you can tell is a body on a large board.
It looks like
covered in a
someone's
sheet.
sleeping under a sheet.
Yeah, it has a sheet on top of the body.
You can see the feet and the head, but like covered in the sheet.
Yeah.
And they're carrying it in, and he's still excited.
He's
The
like
whole
ready.
time. He's like, you're here, we're back together, this is going to be great. What is this beautiful gift you're going to
here's
give
the thing,
me?
I'm also going to point out as well, like, how crazy Gambon's makeup got from the minute he realized that his wife was having an affair, and then how deeply his fucking eyes have started to sink into his head by this time. And he's like smiling and he's manic. Absolutely
he's crazy.
fucking manic.
Well, and Georgina, Helen Mirren, like her outfits throughout this entire film are fantastic.
Yes.
Like
Jean-Paul
lots of corsets and amazing. Her boobs look fantastic and everything. But like this final scene, she has this like huge like feather collar happening, and then there's this black netting that goes all over her body, but then there's like this massive train behind her
that the people are just carrying around behind her. Could you
waitress.
tell if the dress that she was wearing was see-through or not?
I could not.
It looked like it was see-through, but I wasn't totally sure because
on our TV, I'm not too sure, but I'm pretty sure the actress who was the waitress in the movie who was then carrying that train is like Alex something. She was also a staple in fucking ER at one point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And she's a British actress.
Well, Albert mentions earlier in the movie about, you know, when she's having the affair and they're in all these different rooms, and he pulls up her dress at one point and comments on the fact that she's not wearing any underwear, which of course makes him really mad. But I'm wondering if that was just something that she'd brought back. It's hard to tell, you know, just through the darkness if she was wearing anything.
Maybe we'll
underneath
see
or
it.
not.
We'll see it on the big screen. I'm so excited.
And that woman was Alex Kingston, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is I'm calling it the last penis scene, but this is obviously, you know,
it's not real.
Not real,
yeah,
but it's
real.
a very end of the film, an hour, 56 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah.
But this is when you kind of get that big reveal of what we've been leading to this whole time with, you know, I'll kill him and I'll eat him.
Yeah.
And this this kind of thing that they've all put, well, you know, that the wife and the cook have put together is cooking the lover to feed to the thief. And really
one of the it's so delicious in like how it's like put together, because like you think about like good revenge films, and that sometimes you don't get the payoff that you're looking for. And I think about like really good kind of climaxes to those sorts of things. And I think I think Seven's very good at it. I think Old Boy's very good at it, where like the tables are turned into such a degree, and it's just like she just fucking points a guy at the gun and she says, "Yeah, eat it up."
And he eats it.
You vowed you'd eat him. Now eat him.
Yeah.
And then she says, okay, you ready?
Yeah, I need to hear this.
Yes.
Try the cock, Albert. It's a delicacy, and you know where it's been.
And he eats it.
Well, he doesn't eat the dick.
He doesn't eat the
does.
dick.
He
Like a
does
bit of the
eat.
stomach.
He does eat some of Michael, and then she shoots him in the head and says, "Cannibal."
Cannibal. Boom.
It's played so, like, when he puts that fork in and his hands are shaking and he's like, it's like the worst thing that he could probably do. And he's been gorging himself up to this point as well. Like, he'll eat anything. And it's such a delicious moment that I'm glad that when we do see it on the big screen, like, it's just, I'll be able to appreciate the grandeur of that moment without having to feel like I've got analytical eyes on it. It's just it's so special. So unbelievably special.
Yeah. That's really lovely.
Which is why it's like I would hate to see this film in like one of the shorter formats, because I feel like it comes to such a crescendo at the end that I'm like, if this film's half an hour shorter, I'm like, well, is it as effective?
Yeah, the pacing, I think, would be, like, really messed with at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm going to say we all, but I have a problem with the MPAA. I think that there's something wrong there that needs to be addressed. The original running time of this film is 124 minutes. So, I
don't think it's a problem with the MPAA. I mean, I know certainly there's an issue with that in terms of, like, it's also the shortest version that you can find, and that's the US version. But obviously the BBFC has an issue with the film as well, because obviously their 18 rated cut is 1 hour and 44 minutes.
I don't have a lot of research on that, but the MPAA gave Miramax a choice of either an X rating, that we had back in the day, or to go unrated for the theatrical release. And then the unrated is usually, that's an adults only type of film.
Yeah.
So they were in a kind of a tight spot. They chose the unrated instead of the X rating because obviously people think of, pornography.
Yeah.
There's two versions.
It's the death nail. It's the death nail for distribution if they do that. 2
versions of the films were released on VHS in the 90s. One was the R-rated cut, which is 95 minutes.
Yeah, it's weird.
And 95 minutes.
Did Miramax put that version out, though? So they, like, completely butchered it? Because if anything we know about Miramax, and we've, like, talked about Miramax before, is that they butchered their films to such a degree that, like, it was to maximize their distribution.
Well, they also, and I don't know when exactly this partnership came into being, but I know that when I worked at Hollywood Video, we didn't get Miramax films. We would get maybe like 4 or 5 copies, but Blockbuster had an agreement with Miramax.
They did,
so they would get all of those films.
But Blockbuster had like international autonomy. Like, I mean, that's just something that they had. Like,
but Blockbuster originally stocked the unrated version of the film, but then had complaints from religious groups thinking that if they stocked the unrated or NC-17 version of any films, it'd bring sex and violence into the mainstream. So Blockbuster took it upon themselves to take all of the copies of NC-17 and unrated films off of their shelves.
Yay,
and
Western
only
society.
Keep the edited R-rated versions that were available.
Yeah.
So Helen Mirren actually went to New York to argue with the MPAA because she goes, it's different in Europe and it's different in the UK. Like you were saying, you have 18 and over, etc. So she said, I told the board I absolutely could not legitimately criticize this film on its artistic merit. It may be pretentious or boring or whatever they want to say about it, but they can't deny where its heart is.
Yeah.
But the MPAA denied their appeal, obviously, and just said, we're going to do whatever we want.
It's such an odd kind of conversation to have about this film, and that we've covered films in the past that have had like multiple versions that have released. I mean, I think obviously our earliest one is Color of Night, which had 2 versions. This is obviously one of the outliers in that it's just not widely available in any form whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, if you're not seeing the 2-hour cut, I don't know if I'm fucking interested in watching the other versions, because I'm really kind of worried about what it is that they've cut out, because for the most part, there's the language is relatively quite tame, at least to my standards, and certainly kind of what the film is depicting is not graphic to the extent of like some of the things we've mentioned, like kind of like the abuse, the potential rape and things. But again, you never see that stuff like explicitly. So I'm assuming the issues they have with it are with that opening moment with the shit, and then obviously the ending. And then also I have issues with that because the film has to end that way. There is no way that the story cannot substantiate itself without ever having that ending. The film just dies, in my opinion, if it doesn't have that ending.
And it's the logical ending to the
the story has led to that point. Like everything has led to this moment happening, and the amount of impact that film's ending has is the only reason why this film is as regarded as it is.
I'm gonna say it's the nudity. I genuinely am going to say
it's definitely going to be
because America has a problem with nudity
and
male nudity.
dicks especially, and female orgasms,
and female frontal nudity in terms of anything below the waist.
But this is also another moment, and I don't
anything
think
below the waist
we didn't point this out. Is that the minute they are hosed off and they go into the bookkeeper's house, there is a long tracking shot that's pretty much in a mid the entire time where they're chatting and they're going down his hallway and it's covered in books and stuff. It looks like I like that location in general. It looks like that scene in Blade Runner when it's just that hotel and stuff like that. I don't really like it. And they're completely naked. They're completely naked, and you're seeing fucking everything. Everything is there.
It's a gorgeous shot, and it's so casual, and it's these
and we never brought it up, because it's immediately after they get hosed off.
It's just nice.
Yeah,
well, we don't have to bring up every single moment, but like, it is a really beautiful. I mean, every shot in this movie is a beautiful shot. He knows what he's doing, but I think that one is particularly kind of touching in terms of where their kind of romance and where their affair was heading. Yeah. Obviously not in a good place, but...
This is another movie, because, last we were on for Short Bus, but this film has resolve at the end of it, and you don't feel as bad about it because she's taking her power back. And so this is one of the few Uncomfortable Brunch films where you don't feel as bad afterwards. Like, usually our thing is if we watch a movie and we feel bad, worse than when we started it, then that's an Uncomfortable Brunch movie. But this one, it has so much resolve. Yeah. But it's iconic, and not a lot of people have seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a fantastic ending, because I think the minute Gambon dies, credits roll. That's it. There's no fucking around with it.
You don't need any follow-up after that. That's all you need to see.
No, because you know what the future holds at that point, and it's incredibly positive from there. But it's it's the greatest insult when it happens to Gambon as well. The Gamboneer, as I've decided to dub him. I don't know. I think this. The more we think about it and extrapolate it, I think this film's fucking brilliant.
Well, this is a wonderful time to go around the table, and we'll do our ratings in terms of visibility and context. And I'll start because I'm already talking, and I'm going to... Oh, this is hard, because I wrote 4, and I'm like, but what makes a 5? What really makes a 5?
Yeah, what makes a 5? Because here's the thing, this is when... Well, if I think about 5s that we've done before... Shame is 1. Bad Lieutenant is 1. Yeah. And I think also Hunger is another 5 as well. A couple of Steve McQueeners in there.
Yeah.
So really, it kind of depends on
maybe more time on screen. How about 4.5? Okay. Visibility and context 4.5.
Okay.
That's me. And do you want me to do my film?
No, we'll do that next.
We'll do that next. Okay, Kat, you go next. visibility and context.
I think I agree with the 4.5.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see more.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think contextually it's all there. It's just not particularly clear for most of the time.
It's dark. It's a dark film too.
It's a dark film, and I like how the film looks. So like I don't really have a problem with that, and it's obviously a very stylistic choice. But in terms of, I think it contextually should have 5, but then when you look at the visibility, it's like closer to like maybe like a 3. So everything kind of averages out at about a 4, in my opinion. I like how open the film is, because obviously you're looking at two lovers who are very kind of, and if we think about like the fragility of like human existence and like when we fall in love and things like that, like the purest moments that we have in our memory is with people when we're lying naked with them and we're kind of like happy. It's like, post-coitus or whatever this fucking shit is. So,
for most of their time, it's pre.
It's all pre-coitus. Or, post-coitus. Either way. But yes, it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's close to probably more a 4 than a 4.5. But yeah, it doesn't reach the heady heights of a 5, I'm afraid.
No. Yeah, I think that's usually what we are looking for, is more lighting, more time on screen. But I love the balance that we get in this, because it's a long time into the film before we actually see female nudity.
Mm-hmm.
And none of the nudity is gratuitous at all.
No.
But it needs to be there.
It's also like a weird balance, because we have that just basically pure violation that happens in the first like 3 minutes, and you're just like, holy fucking Christ. And then the rest of it is relatively quite, it's innocent, it's pure, it's, it's in the sake of like contextually that way. So,
well, until the end as well. So
until
you have
the
it
end,
in the
yes.
beginning, it's quite a violation, as well as the end in a way.
Well, we do know how much Peter Greenaway loves symmetry, so his ending is very much like his beginning.
Yeah.
So,
in terms of the film overall, I'd written down a 4. And I think that is purely, I do believe that this has the opportunity to go higher for me, especially when sitting in a cinema with other people. I think this will be quite different.
Yeah.
But sitting at home and kind of having to look at it with a critical eye, I think it definitely can go higher. But right now I'm sitting at a 4 for an overall rating, because I didn't find it slow at all. I found it very, very engaging. And entertaining and sad, but really funny and gross, but not as gross as I thought it was going to be, and also kind of romantic. And I kind of had all the things that I like, cannibalism.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, I wasn't surprised that you liked this film.
There was one trigger warning that I forgot, that I'm pulling out at the very end, that he does run over a dog.
Oh, yeah.
In the film. And I like to think that even in 1989, hopefully that was just a dog actor who got lots of Cheetos after for being a good boy and looking like he was hurt. I hope.
There's plenty of moments where you feel like the dogs aren't treated well.
No, the dogs are running wild and fighting with each other.
Just doing stuff. Yeah.
When he starts backing that car up, I genuinely thought there's a lot of dogs around. And I don't know if the dogs are paying attention. So, were animals harmed in the making of this film? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, potentially.
Anyway, go on. Kat, let's have your rating.
I'm going to give it a 4.5
Wonderful.
out of 5 stars, because I am a fan of symmetry. Because of my affinity for Wes Anderson, you probably know this, but I do love things that are well constructed and the formality of it. So I appreciated like all of the color palettes, all of the blocking and structure to this production. And I like that the story was very clear cut and it was easy to follow, even when you couldn't really understand what Albert was saying, because he's just rattling off like all the time, which like that's kind of the harming of the dogs it makes me like a little bit like less of the not a 5. And also like Albert constantly like rattling off, like I feel like I lost a lot of the additional context that I could have had, but it's just like because of the Cockney, it's so fast. But you always know what's going on generally in the film, which I think is good that it comes across. And everything was choreographed really well, especially like in the sex scenes with the lovers. Like, I'm not a person who likes gratuitous sex in film, and I didn't feel overwhelmed by anything that was going on in this. Like, the nudity, it was all like planned out and choreographed, and it made sense, and it looked good.
Yeah.
It looked amazing.
They looked great.
Everyone looked great naked, except Roy, who was the guy with the dog shit at the beginning.
Yeah, so. I don't blame him too much.
Poor
for that.
Roy.
He did get peed on, too.
Yeah, he did get pissed off.
But he got to be there for the guy's like murder, so he was in the ending scene.
Yeah, because all the people that he had wronged got to be there.
Yeah, including Pup in the wheelchair, so we know that Pup pulled through.
Yeah. Good old Pup. All right, Ryan.
So I originally gave the film 4 stars, and I think like a lot of the stuff that you guys are talking about are like the things that I really like I look for in films, which is, you know, the staging, the choreography, like how scenes develop, how transitions happen, like how you kind of feel like absorbed in this world and stuff, because there's no sense of like time, there's no sense of place, there's no sense of like distinction in period or anything like that with this movie. So, you know, it's weird in that sense, and it kind of feels almost slightly kind of hellish as you're watching it, because it's so enclosed, and it creates a world that's very much within like a microcosm and stuff like that, which is something that I quite enjoy from, you know, watching stage plays and other kind of filmmakers of the like. So I love a lot about this film. But then I also have like these conflicts with it where I'm like, you know, we watched the 2-hour version of the film, and you know, there's shorter versions out there. I'm like, is there like a sweet spot where I get everything, but then at least there's maybe a little bit of the chaff? Like maybe one of the tracking shots doesn't have to be as long or whatever else.
You just want it to be a little bit shorter.
I want it to be a little bit shorter, but it is designed. It's a film by design that has been structured this particular way. And I don't want to take anything away from it, because there's so many things in it that I adore and I love, which is a weird thing for me to say because I had such a kind of weird bias against Greenaway's stuff when I was a lot younger. So,
well, when we started this film, you go, all right, let's start this shit.
Yeah. Look
at you now.
I was expecting to hate it. Well, the problem is like I've just gotten older, and I've decided that I appreciate things a little bit more, you know, other than stuff like In the Cut. Like In the Cut can still go fuck itself. I'm not that fucking intellectualized to fucking deal with that stupid nonsense.
Did you know that Michael Nyman did the music for the piano?
Yes.
Okay.
But that film's still good, and I'm terrified to watch it because Jane Campion's stuff's so fucking hit and miss. I'm
so sorry. Go on to your ratings.
Anyway.
Yeah, are you gonna do?
Yeah, I said I want to see the film in the cinema, and I'll probably end up giving it 5, but at the moment it's like 4.5.
Wonderful.
So in a cinema, I'd probably give it 5 because it's like.
Oh yeah, it's gonna go up. Everyone watch my I don't know how this timing goes, but Letterboxd. Anyone should follow us on Letterboxd. It's fun.
Yeah, you should.
Shout out to Letterboxd, along with Tubi should be sponsoring this show.
They should be, yeah, because we tout your platform like nobody's business.
That's true.
Yeah.
And we pay for it.
We do pay
Oh,
for it.
yeah, I pay for Letterboxd too.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
those stats.
Oh my god, the stats.
I'll send
we should
this-
compare stats later.
Well, I'll send this clip to the good folks at Letterboxd on Instagram, and hopefully they come back and be like, "That's really nice." And that's it.
I'm very excited we got to do this, and this is quite a long one, so I hope
It
everyone
is.
enjoyed it as I did, and I hope everyone enjoys this film. If you have trouble finding it, you know, come on.
There are ways.
There are ways.
There are
This is my
ways.
first solo time with you guys.
Yay! It was wonderful.
Yeah, I think it was.
I had a great time,
Yes.
and I can't wait to watch Uncomfortable Brunch. It's going to be fun.
Yes.
Yay.
So, coming to you from the toilet at the Hollandaise restaurant.
Yay.
Bon appetit. I have been Laura.
Toot sweet.
And
That means quickly.
that's Ryan.
Yeah, that's me.
And this is
I'm Katie or Kat or whatever you want to call me.
probably just one of those two.
Probably
Yeah.
one of those two. You're opening a door for some level of abuse from the internet if you do that.
You can call me cunt. I don't care.
Yay! Thank you for being here, and we will see you next time. At brunch, probably.
Is that cunt with a K?
Yes.
Oh, dear.